and just think about this with me for a second. Doesn't matter what your political ideology is, what your religion is, where you came from, your upbringing. Think about this for a second with me. Just slowly think about this for a second. Any position you see that is non-white, somehow it's okay to question the merit of that person earning that job. Whereas if it's someone that's white, you automatically disarm and assume that that person got that job rightfully so. How can we as a nation truly accept?
I think I would be okay with the difference of opinion on this situation in terms of saying that Charlie Kirk was actually a racist, is if you would just at least acknowledge it when it's blatant.
Yeah.
Listen, I can say, hey, this man has I've listened to some of his speeches and it's super empowering, motivating, inspirational, especially in the Christian community. I've seen that. I can acknowledge that he's had that.
Great point.
But you have to also be able to acknowledge the fact that he said some up things that to people that look like you and me, you're going to look at that guy and say, he doesn't have my best interest at heart.
Correct. 100%.
And so to bridge the gap, you're already here. You might as well subscribe before we start. Or if you're already subscribed, hit that like button. Charlie Kirk died a couple days ago. Everyone's had thoughts about it. It's dividing the US, it's dividing some places around the world. This conversation is literally tearing apart friends, it's tearing apart families. It's pretty divisive. What are your thoughts?
It brings out a lot of thought-provoking topics, honestly. I think one that I see pretty frequently is that like a lot of people have conflated like his Christian beliefs to somehow shadow or almost to a degree give acceptance towards some of the divisive stuff he said. Because, I mean, we both know.
Say that in English.
We both know, we both know that he said, I mean, undebatably racist sentiment, right? And I'll quote some things here in a second, but he said some very, very racist stuff referring to DEI. And I think that because his affiliation with the church or Christianity, a lot of people have kind of somewhat allowed him to be a political figure, but also a follower of Christ. So they've allowed that, like, whatever negative stuff, even though they know it's wrong.
He's basically got impenetrable armor.
Yeah. Like a force field. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
He literally can't do any wrong because he has declared that he is Christian.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the most frustrating things, because what we've seen in this particular economic climate is that there is a very, very big movement, significant movement of people that have, whether they'll admit it or not, that's a big piece too, this Christian white nationalist movement, right? Where people are kind of, I mean, if you really dissect it, it's the same thing as the KKK or Aryan Brotherhoods, right? Except it's cloaked with Christianity.
So wait, what's the Christian white nationalist movement?
it's the movement of folks that, or the mindset of folks that the white culture, quote unquote, needs to be preserved, right? So I can't remember exactly where this is, but there's a settlement.
A group of white supremacists has founded a 160-acre settlement in the Ozark Hills for white people only, and it's called Return to the Land.
But there's a settlement of only white people. They won't allow any non-Christian, other races, and they're basically saying, "Look, we want to make sure our bloodlines are pure. We want to make sure we protect white culture and whatnot, right?" And so that's ultimately the same exact movement. I think that because you're not seeing the hoods or the Aryan Brotherhood tattoos, and in this type of movement, it's more acceptable to people,
Right.
So again, whether they'll admit it or not, there's a big part of this nation that has somewhat divided into this movement of white people first. We say America first, but really what a lot of the sentiment actually is indicating is white people first. And I think that is some of the divisive rhetoric that Charlie Kirk propelled within his movement to a degree,
Right.
which I don't agree with. And so, just to set the stage, I do not consider myself a Democrat or Republican. At the end of the day, I like to think of myself as a party of logic in any situation.
And I agree. I'm the same way. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. And I also, just to set the record straight, regardless of my thoughts about the type of person that Charlie Kirk was, I still don't think he deserved to die.
Yeah,
I still don't think he deserved to be shot in front of his family, in front of his kids, in front of all those people. I still think that's absolutely terrible. And whenever you decide to just assassinate someone, that you're basically saying, hey, when it comes to like having a battle of the minds, a battle with your voices, you automatically lose.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, what you're saying is so powerful that let's kill you. However, the politicians on the right were saying this is war. We're going to get them, whoever they are. And things have come out. And it seems like the killer was a 22-year-old Mormon white man who was raised by Trump-supporting parents, was holding guns since he was a kid. So the killer looks more like Charlie Kirk than like a transgender black gay Muslim man.
Now, so that's even a greater point, because think about what the narrative would be, or the media coverage would be in the event that it was.
Oh yeah, that would go in.
Yeah, it would be. So that's the one. That's another thing. Glad you brought that point out. I didn't even think about that, but like, that's one thing I evoke people to realize. Like, think about how you're acting now. It doesn't matter which side you're on. Think about how you're acting now, but imagine what the reaction would be in the event that it was a black person or a Muslim person, or right. And so it would even further divide the nation in the event that it had been that. But the thing that is really frustrating on from my psyche when it comes to this Charlie Kirk situation is that we all know that, I mean, whether we're willing to admit it or not, if we're too ignorant to go back and do research, basic research, as vast as the internet and how quickly accessible we can get information at this time, I think that we will all come to find that he said a lot of very extreme things. Now, being that we all know Trump had an assassination attempt, in my mind, I feel that it was very, very grossly, what's the word? Irresponsible of the security measures that were not there in the wake of the fact that Trump got an assassination attempt, for someone to openly allow the public, which I love that he was doing that with these debates, but I just feel that if you open the door to the public and make yourself accessible, saying some of the things that he was saying, I don't understand how that's not seen as like inviting potential risk, in my opinion.
You talking about Charlie?
Yeah. Like, in my opinion, I just, with the way the mental health is and the way the gun laws are, and I honestly, in my opinion, don't see how there's like shock and vitriol of to the extent that there is. We already saw a sitting president get shot at. What, in my opinion, it's like, what, you're not even a senator or a congressman. Like, what made someone that is saying wildly
Say what you said earlier, bro.
I don't understand how there's entitlement when it comes to freedom of speech. Like, I'll give you an example. If I go to Oklahoma and I'm on the bed of a truck riding around saying F the KKK, right? I can assure you that, yeah, there's freedom of speech, but would I make it out of Oklahoma in one piece? Probably not.
Is the KKK in Oklahoma?
Yeah, there's different. But yeah, Oklahoma's like,
okay,
without
no
disrespect to Oklahoma. But yeah.
Yeah, but on the flip, if a white person decides that they want to go to Compton and just start yelling the N-word hard R,
exactly,
and then get surprised that they get their ass beat,
correct.
It's the same thought process.
To your point, I think that freedom of speech also comes with freedom of consequence. And I think that's one thing that we always seem to overlook. And I think the internet is actually overlooking that.
Right. And just to further dig deeper into the consequence aspect of this is we live in a country with over 400 million guns. We've decided that it's our God-given right to own whatever firearm we want with very limited background checks, if any, with very limited gun legislation. We have a rising mental health crisis and anyone can have access to a gun. So that's the consequences you have to think about when you decide that that's the America you want to live in. So it's not like, hey, he deserved to die because he was saying some things that people disagreed with. But when you think of everything as a whole and how we have America set up, it's a matter of time before someone who's crazy enough that doesn't like you is going to do something crazy. And that's on the right or the left.
Correct. 100%. And I honestly believe that, like, we all know political figures that are like spouting very, very like extreme things on either side. But I think at the end of the day, I do remember him saying like, yeah, we get death threats all the time and things like that. I honestly believe that, like, someone that if you have a family, you got to move different. You got to. You got to use certain things to mitigate risks when there are people dependent on you at the end of the day.
Right.
And so in my opinion, I think that, yeah, it's unfortunate and no one deserves to die from open debate. At the same time, based on like what you were saying with the gun laws being as like the way they are, mental health being the way it is, or the healthcare system being the way it is, catch and release system. So it's like people that even have mental health aren't actually getting dealt with. They're just getting released, stabilized and released. So it's like, I think overall, we as a nation need to be a little bit more accountable in the measures that we take to protect situations like this, right? Like, there needs to be security checks. There needs to be roof sweeps. There needs to be that, especially with the certain things that some of these people are saying. I think without that, it's kind of, honestly, it's ignorant and irresponsible for people to be like, hey, let's invite X, Y, and Z, regardless of the setting. Everyone's like, it's at a school, blah, blah, blah. The school shootings you know what I mean? How many school shootings have we had?
So there was a school shooting the same day.
Right? Elementaries, middle schools, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a college. We don't expect to have like that type of stuff at a college. Like, okay, guys, that we keep seeing these same things take place. School shootings, and the gun. What's the one thing that never changes? The gun laws. So if we're not going to make change to policy, we have to mitigate those risks in some way, whether that's security checks, whether that is mental health checks, assessment checks for people to get guns. Like, if we're not going to take strides in doing that, to me, it's so surprising when people are up in arms in shock of like, oh, there's a shooting or there's this. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what did we change to prevent it from the last shooting that just took place?
Listen, there was a post I watched, and I don't even remember which country he was talking about, but there's many countries like this. He's like, hey, I moved to X country. This year, there's going to be 30 gun deaths. Today in America, there was 120 gun deaths. And what's the X factor? In order to get a gun, you have to You have to go through all types of tests. And you can just get a hunting rifle, and you can't get assault rifles. You can't get like
There's
things. You can't get types of guns that you could just mow down crowds of people.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I mean that's the consistent factor that we keep seeing.
100%.
But I want to, unless you have something else to say on this, I wanted to kind of talk more about Mr. Kirk.
Yeah. Like the quotes or some of the stuff.
Yeah. So, since this has happened, I've been fairly silent on social media, at least publicly, compared to other things I've talked about. This will be me talking about it in length for the first time. But I have been having debates and arguments and conversations with people. And one of the things that keeps coming up is they're saying, hey, Charlie, tell me one racist thing Charlie Kirk has ever said. I'm like, here's 5. And every single time, it's like someone gave them the talking point. It's like, did you watch the full videos for those? You're taking those quotes out of context. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I like you have been getting personal arguments with some of my friends, but I think that's been said, and it's weird. It's almost like there's this. It's like a denial. People, for some reason, I have to say they know what he stood for ideology-wise, but for some reason, because there's church or Christianity involved, they can't accept the fact that he might have said racist things, or they can't accept the fact that he is creating a white superiority complex amongst other races.
So just to tap onto that real quick, because I know you probably have more to say, but it seems as though my most religious friends or people in my life are the most stark defenders of him. And I don't understand what the cognitive dissonance is, where they see all of the good things, but they can't, they literally see through anything negative he ever said. They can't even acknowledge that was bad. They just have excuses for, oh, wait, this is what he actually meant. Bro, I heard what he said. He said Sheila Jackson does not have the brain processing power to actually be in Congress, and she's a DEI hire.
Yeah.
How is that out of context?
In quote, you do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously.
This is a direct comment to that. He was talking about the danger of affirmative action, which I've had several conversations with experts on why affirmative action was not successful. Sheila Jackson Lee, I will not speak ill of, as she has passed, but she was a horrible politician. I will not speak ill of her, and then immediately speaks ill of her. Bad orator, and wasn't regarded for any ability to reach across the aisle. He was speaking about how when you see someone that doesn't deserve a position, talk about how they got into certain things that maybe they shouldn't have it, creates holes in all hiring of Black people, and that's unfair. With that said, I don't agree with the way Charlie articulated in this clip. Also, my role with the NCAA was replaced to a person of color, and in the call, which was recorded, they said we needed to make a diversity hire and let me go of no fault of my own. This wasn't affirmative action. This is more DEI. So what that does is build distrust in hiring and wonder if people deserve their roles. Again, not his best spin, but his concern was the damage it would have on Black people in the workplace. So he's saying that comment about Sheila Jackson was more about the concern of Black people. Meanwhile, saying she doesn't have the brain processing power. I'm sorry. No, that's not your concern.
Yeah.
Your concern is you're saying we're idiots, we're dumb.
I think the thing that frustrates me about this is, and I've had this argument as well, what Charlie Kirk said in total about DEI is he's created a complex in people's mind, if we really dissect this, that makes it such that anytime you see someone that is non-white, and just think about this with me for a second. It doesn't matter what your political ideology is, what your religion is, where you came from, your upbringing. Think about this for a second with me. Just slowly think about this for a second. Any position you see that is non-white, somehow it's okay to question the merit of that person earning that job. Whereas if it's someone that's white, you automatically disarm and assume that that person got that job rightfully so. How can we as a nation truly accept anyone that thinks that way? Imagine if we have 1 million people in an island and 90% of those people on the island thought that way. Would that island be a better place or worse off if that thinking is plaguing everyone's mind? And so literally when I got to that argument with my friends, I realized I somewhat stumped them, because in their heads they said, that is true. That's what we've grown to think. Anytime we see a black person, not even just black, forget it, any other race, we're assuming that we are questioning that person may or may not have gotten there rightfully so, as far as having earned that position. And that to me is just wildly ludicrous to even have that forethought. That's wildly ludicrous to me.
Right. And that goes into the whole comment about the black pilot.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel that, like, to his rhetoric spewing that, it just, forget the fact that, like, oh, I'm a Christian or whatever. That type of rhetoric makes the world a worse off place, in my opinion.
100%.
Worse off place. Like, if you have generations of people that are assuming that, hey, this black pilot or this black captain on this boat may not have earned his job just because of the color of his skin. What was the point of all the civil rights activists years ago? What were they trying to do if we've now arrived at primitive thinking like that now?
Right.
You know, what's the point?
You're right. All right. Also, on top of that, can you see the difference between how we handle tragedy now than how we did before? Like, it seems like with the passing of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it seems like from the head down, from the leadership down, the president, it's violent rhetoric. All right, this is the enemy. Let's go after them. Let's make sure that we get them. Yeah. Rather than, hey, hold up. Let's stop the violence. Let's come together. We're not going to do this. There's none of that anymore.
Yeah.
And you could see it in real time. There's a photo circling that shows all of it shows a lot of politicians on the right, as soon as he got shot, talking about, hey, this is war. Yeah. This is like, we need to start arresting people on the left. We need to make the left actually, let me read this shit direct.
Yeah.
Let me read this direct.
There's actually someone that's created a database of everyone that has said anything online negative about Charlie Kirk, because they're trying to go after every single person. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, I've never even seen that on any side set thus far. So,
Charlie Kirk getting shot as the shot heard around the country. I'm ready for civil war. You want to fight? You're going to get it. The Democratic Party must be classified as a domestic terror organization, and their members, leaders treated accordingly. Enough is enough. This is war. It's time to bring the hammer down on the left. Immediately, just automatically assuming it's the left. And then now, I don't know if you've seen the change of tone. Now that they've figured out who it was, like, oh, well, Charlie would have wanted us to pray for him.
Yeah, there's somewhat of a backpedaling tone, but I still think there's still outrage sentiment though, Sacred. There's still outrage sentiment. Like, I mean, there's racial hate groups that are like,
yeah, you're right. There is. But
yeah, they're backpedaling on the internet for sure.
Some of
the media stations, they're backpedaling for sure.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about the white nationalists that have arisen. Like, it's the next day there's what happened at the HBCUs?
The threats, yeah. There was I think 3 HBCUs that were on lockdown because of threats.
Why?
Exactly. That's another thing. I think my friends can't seem to make there's cognitive dissonance, but they can't seem to make a connection. Like when we're telling them like, hey, guys, I know no one should be shot for open debate. I get it. I'm not celebrating that. You'll never see anything like that on any of our profiles.
Yeah.
But I caution you to actually read or listen to some of the things he said because they're widely racist and they'll denounce that. But then it's like, okay, let's just say you may be right. We'll look at the reactions of what's going on with some of these racial hate groups. And then some of them are coming and marching in protest.
Back, white man, fight back! White man, fight back! White man, fight back! White man, fight back! White man, fight back!
And so I'm like saying like, hey, is it interesting that like you're not able to make the connection that these Aryan brotherhoods or these white nationalists are all of a sudden marching in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death? Do you have any idea why? And it's just cognitive. They can't
what's their answers to that? Why? Is it just coincidence?
They troll after that. Like every time I get into an argument and there's a piece that literally cannot be debated in that it's in its own right is exactly as it shows. There's no other way to interpret white now. Like, there's no other way to interpret that. They just troll and then they abandon that argument. Literally, that's the type of situations that I get into in almost every single one of like my political group texts. Literally, that's how the conversations end.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it is very, very frustrating that we are in a time right now where people, just because someone has the cloak of Christianity, they are allowing someone's actions, past, present, whatever, to kind of be acceptable. I just don't understand. Or there's not even, or deny that it was even a precedence, right? Like, no, he's not racist. Okay, what does he mean by this? Explain. And the one thing that really frustrates me is when you hear some of these people's explanations and then they talk to you in a way that they don't even realize that they are psycho-racist in their own right. Right? I'm not going to say her name, but you remember that girl that I was talking to that tried to explain like Tyler Perry's situation. I'm like, oh my God, like you literally are quoting. Not quoting, but I was just so frustrated.
You said Tyler Perry is.
I was so frustrated about that whole situation, bro.
Tyler Perry is tearing apart the black community.
Yeah,
the listen, hold up.
Is so destroyed. Like y'all can't stay together, and I was just like, oh my God, you got into a relationship with all red flags, and you're now in an unhappy situation that has nothing to do with the black dynamic. It's decisions you made knowing what you were getting into. And she conflated that whole thing with the black family value.
Yeah.
Which is really frustrating to me.
Yeah.
And also one thing that I do want to also hit on, we did kind of speak about this earlier. It's kind of like the freedom of speech, but also the freedom of reaction, or what was the word? Consequence. Yeah, consequence. I mean, for every action, there is an equal or opposite reaction. At the end of the day, again, in no way, form, or fashion are we saying, I don't even want to see a comment of anyone saying that we accept any violent retaliatory reaction to open debates. No one is accepting that. No one is saying that that's okay in any way. But I do believe, again, that in the current climate we are in, with the way gun laws are and mental health is, that we all somewhat need to have responsibility and accountability of realizing that, like, yeah, we can say whatever we want, but there is a chance that someone, whether it's a fist, a bullet, whatever, I might get spit on for some of the things I say, but there is an equal or opposite reaction that may or may not come my way. We have to be mature as a nation and people to understand that that is the world that we live in, period.
Yeah, I think Charlemagne said that best. That was literally Charlemagne's point.
Yeah. On the Breakfast Club?
Yeah, I think Charlemagne actually said that best. That, you know, we have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom of consequences of that speech. This is interesting.
A list of Trump supporters who killed or tried to kill Democrats, since the right are now claiming all political violence is from the left. A man who targeted and killed a Democratic state lawmaker, Melissa Hortman, and her husband in their home. It wasn't just them. He went on to shoot other people. He just didn't kill them. The man charged with the attempted assassination of Pennsylvania Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro in April was a Trump supporter. The man convicted of orchestrating a series of shootings, typo here, at the homes of 4 Democratic officials in New Mexico in 2022 was a Trump supporter. The man who tried to kidnap then Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and assaulted her husband, Paul, in 2022 was a Trump supporter. The men who wanted to hang Mike Pence on January 6, 2021 were Trump supporters. The man who killed the son of Obama-appointed District Judge Esler Salas in 2020 was a Trump supporter. The men who were convicted of trying to kidnap Michigan Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020 were Trump supporters. The men who sent pipe bombs to the home of Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and other top Democrats in 2018 was a Trump supporter. The man who killed left-wing activist Heather Heyer after driving his car into a crowd of counter-protesters in Charlottesville in 2017 was a Trump supporter. A list of Trump supporters.
So the thing that annoys me is this false equivalence. If you look at the data, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
Most of these irrational, erratic, mentally ill people, if there is any ideology, it's on the right. Again, I'm not going to consider myself a Republican or a Democrat. However, there's one side that is using, I think it goes back to your point about white Christian nationalism, using that as a shield, but still spewing hateful rhetoric.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the issue.
Like, just because someone is a church follower or impassioned in Christ doesn't mean that they can acceptly say Black people are lesser, or these other races or religions are lesser. It's just like, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what would Jesus say? And there's a big disconnect once you bring that into the argument. I've had to bring, and I think that's another thing. I've had to bring, like, the skeleton of religion, if you will, or like the basics of religion, and saying, take the ideology, the political ideology out. What would Jesus do? And then there's a complete different answer. And like, oh, even though these people are Christians, are acting of God, or this Trump policies, Trump is saying that all of his decisions are led by Christian ideals. This has nothing to do with what Jesus would implement. So it's like, okay, so do you see how you're being manipulated by being on this side because they're saying they're Christians, but doing things that founders of Christianity would never do?
Think about this. Jesus didn't say, love thy neighbor that looks like me. Jesus didn't say, love thy neighbor that has the same religion. Jesus said, love thy neighbor, period.
He said, love thy enemy too.
Exactly. So it's just very interesting how they can pick and choose what to follow.
It's like you're rewriting. It's almost like you're rewriting religious doctrine to accommodate your political ideology as it's convenient.
But isn't that how a lot of nations led by religion end up working? In Iran, there's certain rights you don't have.
Yeah, correct.
It's a very religious society, right? And they use religion to rule its people, right?
Yeah, a lot of Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah, isn't that essentially what we're kind of the path we're going down in America?
But okay, I see where you're coming. I see where you're going. But what I'm saying is that it's in this particular situation, people are accommodating new doctrines that were never there, and saying, no, this is religious doctrine. You know what I mean? Versus like the Middle Eastern countries where it's like, hey, you're not supposed to, in Jordan, girls they're supposed to be modest, they're not supposed to show their skin. That's always been that way.
Yeah.
Right? Now people are like creating like, oh, we're going to straddle the fence of what we always known to be what has always been. And now we've kind of created this double standard. Mm-hmm. And that to me is like BS. Like we've always known that Jesus has been an advocate of love your neighbor, love thy neighbor, regardless of skin, regardless of class, all of that. We've always known that. All of a sudden now it's like, hold on, black people and Muslims, you know what I mean? Like it's like someone's like all of a sudden translating a new narrative that suits this white nationalist movement. And that I could not understand how people that claim they're of God are accepting of that. Not only accepting of it, but there's people that are quiet. That's really what frustrates me. It's the people that see it and say nothing. But then when you see the outrage that some of them have when Charlie Kirk died, it's like, okay, I get that. Where were you when George Floyd died?
To them, he died of a fentanyl overdose.
Yeah, it's just it's the double standard that a lot of people are showing. It is so frustrating to so many degrees. It's so frustrating. It's just like, I get it, but where were you when this happened? It's like, don't be silent when that happened and all of a sudden have outrage and vitriol when this happens. And so, yeah, I think that like I keep telling my friends, we got to call a spade a spade. He can say he's Christian and all that, and I'm not saying he isn't, but you have to also say that, like, okay, this candidate or this individual did say racist stuff. I don't accept that. I think we have to be more, and this is everyone on every side of the aisle. We have to say, like with BLM, when people were like rioting and stuff, like, okay, I get the intent. I don't agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think we all have to do that.
But that's so easy for you to say, right? Okay. It's so easy for you to say, right, bad. They cannot say a single thing that this man said was bad.
100%.
That's the issue.
I think the right has a very, very difficult time of being critical. I can tell all of my friends, because they say I'm on the left or whatever, but I'm not. I literally tell them that. But I can literally tell them, look, I wholeheartedly disagree with transgender people playing sports with the gender that they've transitioned to, if that makes sense, right? Like, so if a guy transitions to a girl and then he's trying to compete in that, I'm 100% against that.
Yeah,
100%. And so they can see that I'm critical of what they feel the side I'm on.
Right. They're saying that because they think you're left, you're supposed to adopt that and like, what does that
Correct.
like break their brains?
And yet they can't be, just like you said, they can't be critical of their own side. It's so incredibly difficult, just like you're saying, for them to say, Charlie Kirk isn't racist. Guys, I will honestly tell people, I'm okay with you telling me that you followed someone that you realize now is racist. I will actually have the utmost respect for that person, because it will show a level of maturity that goes beyond them being completely manipulated by an ideology.
Right.
But they can't do that. It's almost like they are so, and I honestly don't know if it's they really can't decipher or they're just in denial. Like if they're too emotionally invested in that, I've been following this guy so long, it would be against like my characteristic being for me to say that this guy's racist because I've been following him.
Right. Well, you say your friends, the people in my life that I know think like this, it's really tough for me not to look at them sideways.
I agree.
It's really tough for me not to look at them sideways, bro. It's sometimes like when shit gets divided, it's like, okay, let me see if I can understand where you were different backgrounds, you were raised differently, maybe things you just can't see what I'm seeing. I don't think this is one of those areas. I think he has said some very clearly racist stuff, Charlie Kirk, and for them to not have a single ability to admit that, I'm going to look at you crazy.
So are you saying that you feel that there is a part of that individual that is racist?
Yeah, probably. I mean, what else could it be?
You know what's crazy?
But I think they don't think they are. I think that they really, some of them really don't think that they are.
It's crazy that you say that because that's what's been plaguing my mind. There are two friends that I talk to every day, and I kid you not, bro. Like we have some of the most thought. By the way, anyone that is open to like these types of debates with their friends, this is what progresses humanity. Yeah. So I 100%. Always will tell anyone, I encourage this type of stuff. Have these hard conversations with your friends. It's definitely something that I think people need to have more on a daily basis. But
100%.
But back to what I was saying, like these conversations that I have, these two friends that I have, it's so crazy, bro, because when I got into the skydiving world is very cliquey. And these two people embraced everyone. Doesn't matter your flight skill level, race, religion. They literally were the embodiment of all, and they hate that I say this, but I'm like, you guys are literally the epitome of inclusivity. And they hate that.
Really?
I kid you not, bro. I kid you not. I say, when I say with every bone in my body, the only reason me and Quinn love the sport the way we did is because we met these two people and embraced the sport because they made the environment so open and accepting with love, no matter what your skill level, race, whatever, your thought process. And so when we have these arguments, it's so hard to argue with them because I'm like, guys, even the epitome of your character goes against what you're saying. Because how we met you is the complete opposite. You guys were what like Jesus actually taught.
Yeah.
To accept anyone, to fly with anyone, like literally everything, every moral fiber in their bone literally made it such that anyone will tell you if they met them throughout the skydiving career, they're the most inclusive people. Like they made the environment the way it was, bro. That's why it's so frustrating.
But that's what makes me think that depending on where you're getting your news, there is just two different sets of information. And because whatever side has convinced you, the other side is bullshit, they're convinced that you're listening to BS.
I agree with you. That was another point I had made with them. Like I felt like some people, they've convinced themselves that one side, like if they just watch Fox News, for example, they've convinced themselves that other media outlets that say anything that dissent against what Fox News is saying is completely fake. And so they've created this echo chamber of only hearing not necessarily misinformation, but information in a way that it's only one-sided.
Right.
And so I also encourage people, from every walks of life to to watch different media stations.
Right.
Like that's one thing that I think we all got to do. If you don't do that, you're not able to delineate between like how propaganda works or like how, damn, this side seems to only be saying the good things about X, Y, and Z, and this side only seems to be saying the bad.
Right.
But yeah, back to what you were saying about like, is it that you feel that there's a level of racism in that person, or they just genuinely don't know?
I think it could be both. I think that you could be raised a certain way and you don't perceive it as racist.
Yeah.
But it could be perceived by other people. So is it racist or not? I mean, if it's perceived by the other side, by a minority that it is racist, then it could be racist. It doesn't always have to be as cut and dry as hard R.
That's true. And I also think because some people's like, just to say what you were saying, like the upbringing, like if someone's parents believes a certain way, sometimes it's hard for them to in their mind wrap around that, like, damn, we might actually systemically be pushing racist rhetoric. So they can't accept that fact because it's systemic within their family.
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of see that because there's people that I talk to that are sheltered, and I'm just like, you do understand, like, the fact that you're sheltered, you saw life through a different lens because you weren't around other races, you weren't around other religions. So a lot of the stuff you saw is like very, very.
I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
I just met somebody the other day. Dope conversation, instantly deep conversations, right? We were out somewhere and the question was asked, like, what's your top 5 cities in the US to live or to visit? And Atlanta and Houston came up. And he was like, way too ethnic for me. For them to have the gall to say that in front of 2 black people. After they had just got done saying, you're one of the dopest people I ever met. Like our conversations were great. I already knew you were a great person. And then in the very next breath, say that.
Yeah.
There's something in their mind that it just did not register.
You're right. They're desensitized. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
When you say Atlanta and Houston, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like, yo, you know what? Some of these people are just ignorant, bro.
Yeah. Damn. That's a great point. Yeah. Now I think about it, bro. I think it's more of like, they're actually not, there's some people that just genuinely are not aware. Like my friends are arguing with me sometimes and they'll say something like, but you're a successful black guy in Texas. Like, do you, how are you feeling racism has affected you? And I'm like, that just because I'm a successful black person in Texas doesn't mean racism hasn't affected me. Doesn't mean racism isn't there. Like that's not how you deductive reason. You know what I mean? You can't deductively reason by saying, oh, there's a black guy that's successful in this particular region. Racism can't exist there. That's not how we haven't not grown to a nation of thinking that primitive. I'm sorry. That's just really the level of ignorance some people have when it comes to like the conversations we have that are just straight in the forefront of like, do you feel that there's racism if you're successful? Come on.
Right. It's just
it's like Martin Luther King's looking at us like God, no, it's just true. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head though, to be honest with you. I think there's a level of like non-perceived and the level of they're desensitized to it, right? Like,
yeah.
Like if I walk into a room and then someone's like, hey, you're David, like a boardroom, and they're like, hey, you're David. Some people may not pick up on that, but I can pick up on like, okay, there's a level of surprise, right? And we've all been in these scenarios. And maybe it's a cultural thing, right? Because we experience it firsthand. They don't, right? Like when I remember one time when my friend called me after he got back from his trip from South Africa because he realized what like modern day segregation was essentially, right? Yeah. And he called me and he genuinely apologized. I was like, bro, you don't even owe me that. But the fact that you have the level of maturity to feel some level of like, I gotta call and have this conversation. I appreciated that. But yeah, there is a level of like in some people's minds that this can't be where we are right now.
Yeah.
Even though it happens every day.
And it's one of the things that Charlie Kirk says doesn't exist. Empathy. It's the inability to feel empathy for other experiences that you've never experienced yourself. Yeah. For some reason, some people aren't. It doesn't seem like they're capable of it unless they experience it.
Yeah.
So
that quote he actually said about empathy. Yeah. I think empathy is made up. New age term that it does a lot of damage. In that context, it's almost like, what's your take on that? Because with his speech, he also spoke on like
Mike.
Okay. He also spoke on like the cost of like owning guns is worth having the accidents. You remember that?
Yeah. And I'll make sure I play that actual clip.
Yeah.
So we need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. Right. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, yes, by having more armed guards in front of schools. Yes. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. Wow. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal.
I don't agree, but I think my thoughts on guns probably differ from a lot of people in the U.S. But I'm also not. I just think that we can't put Pandora's box back in. I think we already have all these guns, so I don't think there's really going to be a way to put them to just take them all away. So it is what it is. My thoughts is common sense gun legislation. I think it would be great if we didn't have access to guns that could kill masses of people. I think, so what's the point? Like, why do we need that?
Yeah.
Like, why do we need that? I get having an armed population in case of tyrannical government, but and someone actually convinced me that, because at first I'm like, well, what are we going to do if the military decides to attack the citizens? We lost. But someone convinced me otherwise, that we can actually fight against.
Yeah, militia is going to fight back.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the sheer amount of people that we have that it'd be really hard to take us all out still, even with tanks and
100%.
shit. But I don't think it's worth it.
No, so you know what's interesting about that quote? Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but I think anyone will continue to say that until it's them or someone that they know that is the casualty. And so that was one argument I had. I was like, yeah, you guys like look at what he said, and then unfortunately the situation is he became an accident, right?
Yeah.
But like, do you think if he knew that he would have said that? No, of course. Like anyone, I think I truly believe that anyone can continue to say that until it's them or someone in their family.
Because of the way that his wife responded, and it could be pure emotion right now, and it could change. I truly believe he believed that, because his wife responded with vengeance. His wife, if you seen her speech?
I did not.
Okay. The way she was speaking was, hey, you have no idea what y'all just did. You opened up a box that you won't be able to put back in. You've ignited a movement. You've poured gasoline on a movement, and there's no way it's going to stop. And we're going to get our revenge. That was basically the tone.
Damn.
So it wasn't.
I gotta look at that.
Yeah, actually, I'll play it.
Gosh, I did not hear that. I wouldn't even have thought she would come on that type of stuff.
She can't. Yeah. So that's the only
With
thing
kids, man?
that makes me believe exactly, and that's the only thing that makes me believe that, you know what? I think he believed that, and based off of how she is, I think she to this day is like, hey, she believes it too. Now, does she wish her husband was still there? Yes, but I don't know. Let me play this for you, bro.
This has got to be one of the most chilling lives I've ever watched. This wasn't just a grieving wife who was in pain. This was a rallying cry.
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. In this world, you have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
Her militant delivery is unsettling and worrisome. That kind of rhetoric galvanizes followers, and it will increase retaliatory mobilization. Her husband just died 2 days ago. Instead of calling for stop the violence, let's unite. What the hell is going on? We need to figure something out. This isn't the answer. She called for vengeance and more political violence. She ends every single sentence with that I don't give a fuck who gets hurt stare.
Charlie, I promise I will never let your legacy die, baby. I won't. I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen.
That was a warning, because history has shown us over and over that when tragedy meets militant rhetoric, movements will grow stronger and stronger. It needs to be stopped. While it wasn't a direct "we are at war with X," the effect of her words was to signal an us versus them fight. And that's absolutely sounds like we're declaring war on anyone who disagrees with my husband's ideology. And holy cow, how she ended this. Terrifying.
My question is, what is actually the legacy or quote unquote the movement? I would want them to actually define that. And then secondly, it's, again, I think as a nation, we need to really focus on like the accountability of responsibility. Someone needs to be in her ear and say, hey, instead of calling to arms or calling for vengeance, we have children. Let's create, or let's strive to create a life that we want them to enjoy, or a better life for them. And so like you'd think with Christian ideals, that would be the number one priority. Mm-hmm. So again, to my point about like, oh, all of a sudden people are like followers of Christ and blah, 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 blah. But then all of a sudden they take a right turn in the name of Christ. That's not the direction anyone would even assume that you would take. So it's like, that's why it's so frustrating when people are kind of rewriting like, oh, I'm a follower of Christ. You can't be a follower of Christ and then call for vengeance. You can't. You just can't. I mean, that's not how that works. And so it's like when it's convenient, bro, Christianity is our force field.
Exactly. You said it best. I mean, I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, prayers for the family and the children, anyone that is affected by Charlie Kirk. But again, I think at the end of the day, what we take from a scenario is probably the most positive thing, right? Let's not dwell in the negative. Let's see how we can grow from this situation. In this particular scenario, we really need to look at like how to mitigate situations like this from happening, to protect people from open dialogue, open debate, free speech, but also let this be a warning to people that like, yes, there is consequences for anything that people might say. So just be careful, be vigilant. And encourage debate, but in a safe setting. Anything you want to leave with?
You said encourage debate, but in a safe setting. It is kind of sad that you have to say, hey, be careful about what you're going to say. But unfortunately, because we have lax legislation on guns and growing mental health issues in America, this is just the reality we live in. So yeah, you got to be careful. On the other hand, I do want to say that, at least from my perspective, I think I would be okay with a difference of opinion if the people who differed from my opinion on this situation in terms of saying that Charlie Kirk was actually a racist is if you would just at least acknowledge it when it's blatant.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, I can say, hey, this man has I've listened to some of his speeches and it's super empowering, motivating, inspirational, especially in the Christian community. I've seen that. I can acknowledge that he's had
Great
that.
point.
But you have to also be able to acknowledge the fact that he said some fucked up things that to people that look like you and me, you're going to look at that guy and say, he doesn't have my best interest at heart.
Correct. 100%.
And so to bridge the gap, you got to be able to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Even if you're not able to say, okay, his breadth of work isn't racist, at least be able to say this particular quote or these particular quotes are racist. At least that's a start in my opinion.
It's a start
in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's actually one of the greatest points in this whole interview. That point, because I think at the end of the day, we literally as a nation will not grow as a human race. We will not grow if we cannot call a spade, bro. At the end of the day, we have to be real and critical of our own political parties, our own ideologies. Like, look, I'm Christian, but this dude's Christian too, and he's doing things that I do not believe in. We have to have the responsibility of accountability of saying, hey, bro, you're doing this in the name of Christ. I don't agree with that. We have to be able to call each other out and be accountable for things that we don't agree with. I think that's a great point. But yeah,
100%.
To your point, 100%. I think once I get people to the point that like I'm personally debating with, that where they can say, all right, bro, I get how that is racist. And instead of just 10 toes down defending the most blatant, it's not even like cryptic what he was saying. It's just right, plain as day.
Yeah.
Hey, to almost paraphrase, like, hey, this black lady's an idiot. I don't
because she's black.
Exactly. I don't see how like anyone could interpret it in any other way because it was just so plain as day blatant. So that's why it's so frustrating when, to your point, where people can't even like claim that like, hey, I can see why an ethnic group or a subgroup of people are gonna say that this guy doesn't like have any of the best interests of these people, period.
100%.
Great point.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Open to all thoughts. Obviously, again, to reiterate, we are not advocates of any retaliation of violence whatsoever. Yeah. We don't want that to go misconstrued, or we don't want that to be miscommunicated in any way, any form, fashion. We are not about that at all.
Yeah. All right.